Next up for chapter 2 is M27. M27 gives us a series of events, and it wants to know whether or not these events qualify as a recordable transaction. The first one states, Toro purchased robotic manufacturing equipment that it paid for by signing a notes payable. Answer this one is yes. Is this a recordable transaction? You bet it is. Toro, the company, purchased robotic manufacturing equipment. So it bought equipment. And how did it buy those equipment? It signed a notes payable. Remember, notes payable has an interest and a principal component associated with it. That means you have a liability, and then you also received equipment, so you have equipment. So yes, you have a recordable transaction. The next one says, Toro's president purchased stock in another company for his own portfolio. Answer this one, no. No, this is not a recordable transaction. Why is it not a recordable transaction? Because it's not recordable for the company. Remember, in order for it to be a recordable transaction, the company actually has to be doing the transaction. In this instance, you had an individual within the company doing his own transaction. Remember, the separate entity assumption states that the company and its owners are separate, okay? So, because someone within the company was doing their own thing, doing their own personal transaction, that has nothing to do with the company unless the transaction is between the company, okay? So in this instance, no. Next one, the company lent $550 to employee. Answer, yes. Yes, this is a recordable transaction. Why? Because the transaction was between the company and someone else. Does it matter that it was between the employee? No, okay? There is special requirements when you have transactions like that in terms of footnote disclosures, which we might talk about later in the semester, but because the company did a transaction, because the event was between the company and someone else, okay, it is a recordable transaction. Next one states, Toro ordered supplies from OfficeMax to be delivered next week. Answer on this one, no. No, this is not a recordable transaction. Why? Take a second and think about it. The reason why this is not a recordable transaction is because the company merely ordered supplies. If they were to receive those supplies, then yes, we have an event that records in the financial statements. But because they simply ordered them, there's no exchange. Let's say that they ordered those supplies, they had not yet paid anything, and no one yet delivered something, and let's say that the company that they ordered from, they forgot about the order. They never ended up delivering them. Would you expect to pay for those then? No. So you have no recordable transaction until you actually have some sort of exchange, either by you, meaning that you paid for the supplies prior to receiving them, or by the supply company, meaning that they've given you something prior to you paying for them. In this event, since we've only ordered them, we have no transaction to record. The next one is 6 investors in Toro sold their stock to another investor. Do we record a transaction? No. Reason why we do not record a transaction on number 5, remember that the investors or the owners are separate from the actual corporation, okay? Separate entity assumption. Again, one of the benefits for a corporation is that you can easily transfer your shares, right? You can sell them on the open stock market. It takes, a minute to sell those, okay? So, because of that, the company does not have to record any events that take place when change in ownership happens, okay? You can just go to the stock market, sell your shares, and the company doesn't have to make any sort of transaction. So this is a transaction outside the company belonging to the individual investors who are separate from the actual corporation. So no, there is no recordable transaction. The next one, number 6, says the company borrowed $2.5 million from a local bank. Yes, in this instance, we have a liability. They borrowed $2.5 million from the bank. We do have a recordable transaction. They receive cash, and then they owe that cash back, most likely with interest. That should be all the requirements for M27. Please send me any questions you have.